For the wet ingredients for the seitan, what I add is about a teaspoon of soy sauce, a fourth of a cup of cooked chickpeas. We want to add, I added about a tablespoon of bouillon, and this is organic better than bouillon vegetable base, and if you don't have anything like that, then you can just use like vegetable broth in place of the water that we're going to use. Or, you know, if you don't have it at all, you can just omit it and just add more seasoning in there. This is just to really give like a nice flavor to your seitan. You don't want it to be completely bland. So then I also added three garlic cloves here. And if you don't like a lot of garlic, you know, it's up to you. You can obviously put less. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of onion. Fresh onion, you can use cooked onion too, and about a tablespoon of any kind of mild flavored oil. Okay, so onto the dry ingredients. I put a cup of vital wheat gluten, fourth of a cup of garbanzo bean flour or chickpea flour. Basically that just makes your seitan a little bit more tender. And then I put some poultry seasoning here. I put about a fourth of a teaspoon. It really depends on how much seasoning you want. And then I added about a teaspoon of salt. Sea salt is what I usually use. If you have it, add 1 or 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast in here. I don't have much on hand at the moment, but that helps the texture and also the flavor if you do have it. I highly recommend that. When I have it, I put it always. So now I'm just going to mix the wet and the dry. Wet ingredients, you think it's still too dry, you can always just add like a teaspoon of water at a time until you think it's perfect. So now I'm just gonna go in with my hands. You can feel it. So yeah, this is nice and moist, and that's what I want it to be. But as you can see, it's like it easily breaks apart right now. So what we have to do is we have to knead it, either knead it by hand for 5 to 10 minutes or knead it in like a mixer for 5 minutes or so, and that's just going to strengthen the gluten a little bit more so that you have more of kind of like a bite and a little bit of a chew when you eat the final product. So it's not quite so like your teeth don't just go straight through it, because obviously we want a little bit of bite. But I don't want to knead this as much as I would need like a vegan steak or turkey recipe or something like that, because you know, chicken obviously doesn't have a lot of chew and bite to it. So yeah, so either just do that by hand or with mixer. My hands are clean, by the way. I just washed them. And obviously if you're not doing this for yourself or family, you want to use gloves if you're doing it by hand, because I know I might get comments like that. So disclaimer.
So what does kneading do to it again? Like, is it the longer you do it, the...
It's just gonna make it, it's gonna make it so that it has more of a bite and a chewiness to it, because either you'll get that seitan that is like you just cut right through it with a butter knife when you don't want that, because you kind of want something that you can bite on, bite on a little bit, or you get the seitan that is extremely dense and is so hard to get through and just honestly doesn't have, so this is like the perfect balance. This is tender and moist, but also has a chew and a bite to it. I just wanted to show you guys how you can tell if it's good. This is how you can tell that you've kneaded it enough. It's kind of a lot harder to rip apart here. Have to really put some good force into it. That's what we want. Okay, so this is how we want this to look while we're cooking it. We want our water or vegetable broth, whatever you're using, we want it to simmer. We do not want it to boil. This is even a little bit high for me. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. If you let it boil and kind of bubble everywhere, what's going to happen is you're going to have that really spongy, almost grainy seitan. So it's really up to you what shape and what size you want, but keep in mind that the seitan is going to about double in thickness while it's cooking. So I choose to have mine about this thickness or so, and then it'll double while it's in there. And I like about this shape. I think for fried chicken for me is good. And it really, it's all up to you guys for this part. Obviously, the thicker it is, the longer it's gonna have to cook. Okay, so our seitan is finished and cooked here. I let that cook for about 20 minutes, give or take a few minutes for you, on the stove. So you just want to check that with a fork or take a little bit of a bite and see how you like it. And then here we have the wet and the dry for our dredge or batter or whatever you call it, want to call it, for the fried chicken. So for the wet here, we have, what I recommend is making a vegan buttermilk basically. So you want to use about a cup of liquid, so a cup of any kind of vegan milk you have, and about a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar or regular vinegar or any kind of acid, so maybe like lime or lemon would do fine too if you don't have anything else, and that'll just make like a nice vegan buttermilk. And what I also added here was a few dashes of hot sauce. I used Tapatio. You can choose to use that or not, it's optional. And I don't have any vegan milk on hand. I know, I feel like a naughty vegan today. I don't have any on hand, so I just use aquafaba, which is a liquid from a can of chickpeas. So the chickpeas that I used earlier for the seitan, I just threw the liquid in this bowl. And then here we have the flour mixture. So I've tried making vegan fried chicken many times, and I found that the best tasting, most traditional, just really good, crispy, crunchy, excuse the mess in the back, got a little messy cooking everything, is just simply flour and spices. That is all you want. I have tried many different things before, panko, breadcrumbs, I've tried making like a liquid batter or whatever. The best thing I have found is just using vegan buttermilk with some hot sauce and simply all-purpose flour with spices. So you can put whatever spices you want. I like a Cajun seasoning, so I put some, I would say I put about 2 teaspoons of paprika. By the way, for flour, we have 2 cups of flour here. So about 2 teaspoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder. We have like half a teaspoon of thyme in there, half of a teaspoon of black pepper, and why am I forgetting? I feel like that's everything. And I put some poultry seasoning, and I might be forgetting a seasoning, and if I do, I'll put it in the description box below. But that's basically it, and also a teaspoon of salt. The oil was on about 375 degrees, or you just want it to be like on a low medium heat, then you throw the chicken in, the vegan chicken, and I actually coated it like 3 times. I found that made it better, more of a coating, and you just want to cook it like 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Made it!